So you're called the visionary of the food sector.
Really?
Don't be shy.
Okay.
Tell me why.
I mean, that's a really great question. Why? Because I believe. I am a believer. I'm a huge believer that if we want people to enjoy a place, you have to give them spaces that they can enjoy.
Here we have, welcome to my BUD channel, guys. So we have Johnny Doughty. So you are a chef who's moved into consulting and into the food industry. So tell me about that transition, and was it like a little bit of a shock to you, or?
Yeah, it was. I think it's a little bit of a shock to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's taken some time. So I'm, what am I, 57 now. I started cooking at 14.
Okay.
So that was at home. I used to run my mum's dinner parties, and I really enjoyed doing that. And then I went off and trained to be a cook. I left school. My mum and dad weren't so happy about that because I was, destined to do what most normal people do: go and be a lawyer or a doctor or a vet or something. My brother had gone and done languages, and my sister was a vet, and I decided I was going to cook, which is quite cool. And I went to college. I learned to cook. I worked in a Polish restaurant first of all, so I learned how to cook all sorts of Polish food before anything else. And then I started to realise that there was a big gap. There was a big gap. People in the food industry not being understood. So I worked for various hotel companies. I worked around the world, in Singapore and America, Boston. And then I started working for a food manufacturing company, Mars, helping them with new product development. And that was when I suddenly realised the power of food.
Only when you started in Mars.
Up until that point, it felt like a personal thing that I just got a real kick out of serving people and seeing them enjoy themselves. But at that point, you suddenly realise the commercial benefit of food.
And when did that start?
That was 1987, 1988.
So
Yeah, it makes me so old.
so young.
But then it became really, really obvious that there was a future for food. And at that time, if you were in food, it was because you couldn't do anything else. You were useless. Yeah. I mean, basically, the only people, when I went to college, the only people were there, the people who'd failed their exams. And it was their third or fourth or even fifth choice on their list of things to do. For me, it was my first choice. It was really funny. So, I was passionately believing that food was going to be my future. I then went and did a degree, retrospectively, I did a degree in Manchester.
Okay.
And then I did a bit more travelling around the world, and eventually I joined a small consulting company in London, who were building the first food courts for shopping centres. And they weren't very good, as in the food courts weren't very good, but the guy who ran it was pretty inspirational. And I worked for him for nearly 4 years, and then the company was going under on Christmas time. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I started my own company, Cover Point, January 1993.
Okay, and so now you're working at ECE, so a major international and German shopping center.
Yes. Yeah.
So it appears that you love your job. You're passionate about it. Tell us more about that. Because you're not cooking anymore. So
I am. This is the joy of what I do. So when I was in the consulting business for 4 years, I started my own business. I ran that for 25 years. And we worked for all sorts of people. We helped Unilever develop the Magnum ice cream product. We helped restaurants develop new concepts and formats. I cooked. I still cooked. I helped do.
Today,
we launched new brands for people. We helped them with their conceptual. We helped them with their menus, their sourcing, all of that stuff. I sold that business to Jones Lang LaSalle in 2014, and at that point I'd already worked for EC as a consultant. So I joined JLL. I thought that was going to be the rest of my life there, but 2.5 years later it wasn't. It just wasn't, and for lots of reasons. But my ambition was, we were working in 50 countries then. We had a team of over 20 people. I wanted to go onto a global platform, but at that time JLL weren't minded to do that because of various other things that were going on in the world. So I left and joined ECE, a company that I think most people would say is quite traditional in the way that it does things. And I came in as Johnny English, I was called Johnny English from day one.
Why Johnny English?
Because my name's Johnny and I'm English.
Okay.
I mean,
There's
stupid.
no backstory.
And there's the Rowan Atkinson film, and apparently in Germany they find those films quite funny. They find Rowan Atkinson very funny. Don't ask me why.
Yes, okay.
But they do.
Okay.
And so I became Johnny English, and it's sort of been a really strange but very enjoyable journey for 2 years, because I brought cooking into the company. And food has now become central to a lot of what we do. A passion for food and place, not just property and rent. And at a time when our industry needs that, at a time when our tenants and new tenants want that, they want to feel an emotional connection between landlord and tenant, not just you pay the rent. Yeah.
So you could say you're sort of like a pioneer of the food industry, no? I mean, you are the man of the year.
Yeah, well.
So can I be like a woman of the year too? Can you share some tips, please?
Yeah, I knew nothing about it until it was awarded.
Which was last year,
It was last year, yeah. And it was the first award for Across Magazine. And I just got this note out of the blue saying, Johnny, you're man of the year. And I went, typical me, I said, shouldn't that be person of the year? Because I'm like that.
Well,
I was groomed well by HR. It should really be person of the year. He said, yeah, okay, so it's person of the year, but you're a man, so we're going to call it man of the year.
Man of the year.
And the first thing that happened, they put it up on LinkedIn, and the first 3 comments came back, shouldn't that be person of the year? Other people have written.
As if people had known what you wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. You
Bizarre,
have this
isn't it?
amazing group
Bizarre.
of fans. How
But
cool.
no, I think part of it is I emotionally lead, as well as with what I do. I'm a great believer in you make things happen if you believe in it. And so when we build new projects, you can't just sit there and go, well, it might work, but it might not. You've got to believe in it. You've got to believe in what you're trying to do. And bearing in mind when I started, the food industry was less than 1% of the floor space in shopping centres. Now it's on average 10, 12. And still growing, absolutely. In ECE, it's only like 4%. So we've got a big job to do to bring that up to date.
That's a good challenge for you, isn't it?
And we've got to build the space properly, because you can't just switch a restaurant from a shop. You've got to actually build it properly. This is the whole place-making thing. You've got to make it a place where you would like to go, not just.
So in Associate Insight, you're not just bringing the food; you also bring the whole atmosphere and environment for it. Okay, so we'll jump onto one where there's a shopping center that you love in Frankfurt, my side. Can you? So it's a new, exciting food concept at the top of the floor. Can you tell me more about why you call this like Foodtopia? That's a funny word, by the way.
It's great.
Why?
Yeah. Well, I think let's start at the beginning. The shopping centre was owned by somebody else. It was bought by Deutsche Bank DWS. We are the managers of it, and they asked us, what would you do with it? And it had a 4th floor, it had 4 restaurants on it that had failed. There was only one that was working.
Okay.
Beautiful architecture, stunning glass roof, but everybody went up there and then realised you can't get outside. The way it had been built, you come to the edge of the glass roof to look out over the city, and there was no balcony. And we really did some work on it, and as a consultancy, and we produced a report and said, this is actually one of the best places in Frankfurt, but you just have to respect it for what it is. It's like a town square, but on the 4th floor of a shopping centre. And we were having various meetings, and then we did the report, and as with most consulting reports, you just get consigned to a shelf somewhere. And then one day I got a telephone call. I was in Dubai at the time at an RLI event, one of Jane's famous events, and it was the Meydan Racing Stadium. And it was a guy called Klaus Strebig, who was the head of leasing at EC at the time. Jonathan, we'd like to see you. I hear you're in Dubai. And I said, yeah, I'm in the room next door to you now. I'm in the room, literally the room next door. I went out the door, in the next door, and they said, we need some help on this project in Frankfurt. Do you know anything about it? And I went, well, yeah, I wrote a report for it a year and a half ago. Yes. They said, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We need somebody to deliver that for us. Would you work as our consultant? Anyway, short story, very quickly I joined ECE. It was fantastic. And then it became my baby.
Okay.
I then found out that the leasing team had been working on it for a year, had got no contract signed. Nobody understood the concept because we're really good at doing food courts, but we hadn't done anything like this before. So we took the team, we took them away for a day. We didn't retrain them because they're beautiful, lovely, incredibly talented people, but they just didn't know what they were selling. We sat down together, it was a fantastic day, And then all of a sudden, the deal started to happen. And I said, think about it not as a shopping centre and a floor on a shopping centre that's on the fourth floor and it's really difficult to get to. Think about it as a town square with 16 bars, restaurants, cafes, and a beautiful cinema with an open roof and a terrace that looks out over the city. And they went, we can sell that. Yeah, and then that's what happened.
That's how it started.
And so the first phase opened 11th of April.
Okay.
The next phase is opening mid-June, and the final phase is opening round about the end of
So
August.
this year, of course,
Yeah.
2019.
And the final phase will see Big Chefs in Turkey opening,
Oh, wow.
Astor Cinema opening, and Alex opening, all with a 140-metre terrace looking out over Frankfurt. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
Foodtopia. Utopia.
Yes.
Food.
Totally.
Utopia became, and that's how he was describing it. For me, it was going to be a food utopia, and then it just got short.
Just short.
And then an agency pulled it together, and that was it.
Okay.
And the resistance we had from our colleagues, it's not German, they won't understand it.
Well,
And I said, well, you know what, that's not a bad thing, actually. And so we had every name that you could imagine for the area. But eventually, Foodtopia stuck, and then they launched it, and the launch on the 11th was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
oh, amazing. Okay, well, now I understand Foodtopia. That makes it a little more understandable, I'm sure, for our watchers too.
I hope that helps a little bit. Yeah. As they say, see me afterwards if you need to ask any more questions. Yeah.
they can't see, like...
No, but, yeah. Okay.
It doesn't matter, they can send you a message. It's
Send
okay.
me a mail.
So...
WhatsApp me or something.
Oh, no, it's WhatsApp.
Is that what you call
Yeah,
it?
it's called WhatsApp.
Okay, well, when you're 57, it's called WhatsApp.
Okay. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, well.
Yeah. I confused Tinder and Twitter last week. I got them the wrong way around in an email, which was really quite funny in ECE.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah, that really.
Yeah.
How did you get to?
I don't know. I think it was the spell checker. That's what I'm blaming.
Yeah, right. You just blame the technology. That's what my mother does. So you're called the visionary of the food sector.
Really?
Don't be shy.
Okay.
Tell me why.
I mean, that's a really great question. Why? Because I am the believer. I'm a huge believer that if we want people to enjoy a place, you have to give them spaces that they can enjoy, not just use.
Yeah.
So it's the difference between a restaurant that you go into and you functionally consume things because you're hungry and thirsty, and a restaurant that you go into and you live parts of your life there. And that's, every restaurant company in the world is striving for that. Even the brands like McDonald's and KFC, the fast food, the ones that are struggling a little bit to get the growth in their traditional markets, they're all now going, it's real spices, it's cool, it's interesting, we're doing music, we're doing better furniture. It's not about function anymore. And I think I believed that, and I believed it because I've grown up in the industry, and I can see what happens when you refurbish a restaurant, or when you do something really well, when you show the cooking. Wagamama's sales growth, when they took the kitchen from the back of the store and brought it to the front of the store and let people see the cooking going on, there's no other reason apart from the fact that people can see cooking, and they feel more
Part of
engaged.
it is like in the kitchen, in your kitchen.
Yeah. So I'm a believer, and I think that it's not, if you want to call it visionary, you can believe in lots of things, but I genuinely believe that the power of food is much, much more than a biological function. It's a place-making tool, and our industry didn't understand that. And the shopping centre and property industry didn't understand that, and it does now. And I think I've been singing that same song, but if you think I started in 1993, at that point most people were saying, Johnny, just shut up. You keep talking about more food, you keep saying it's going to be coming, and you keep saying this, and it's not, it's just not. And that in those days,
Really?
those
So you got a lot of rejection?
Yeah, loads of rejection. And these were the traditional companies that were, really powerful. Pearl became MP in the end, Hammerson, all of those. And then suddenly you start working for people like Westfield and Lend-Lease. We did Blue Water, we did Trafford Centre. Trafford Centre, 100 million in food service sales a year. That's not by accident. One lady who was one of the investors came to the site before it opened. She said, Jonathan, she calls you Jonathan, nobody's ever going to come here for a nighttime meal. Why would you come to a shopping centre to have dinner? And because that was her world of shopping centres provided functional cafes and food, it didn't provide a nice place to be. You know, and the cinema did 900,000 people. And of course, every time you go to the cinema,
you always want to eat. It's just part of culture.
So I think we were very structured in the way we did our work. We thought very carefully about the guest journey, how you come in, what you do, you know, all the usual stuff that when people arrive at a shopping centre, the first thing they generally do is they go to the toilet. You know, they relax a little bit, then they find something to eat and drink. And then they go on to do whatever they have to do. So if you understand that process and you then put the right things in the right place, I always say to people, it's like having a petrol station but not on the road. If it's not on the road, you're not going to use it. You know, you drive down a motorway and there's a sign that says the petrol station is 6 kilometres off the motorway. You don't use that one. And it's the same with cafes. You don't go hunting a cafe or shopping centre.
No, you go to the one that's just,
But if you know where the great restaurant is, you will hunt that down because you're going to be spending an hour and a half there. So it's quite logical. And visionary is a lovely word. Thank you so much. But
no, I think you are a visionary.
I think what I am is I'm a passionate believer, and as a result, a passionate leader.
Okay. Yeah. So you call yourself a passionate leader.
Yeah, I would say
that's
so.
Better for you.
Visionary is sort of like, I think you're seeing past what everybody else is seeing. I think everybody knew it was happening.
But you took that stick and said, I'm going there, follow me not. I mean, of course, when I say follow me not, you had a team of people that helped you out. You weren't alone, but you were the one that said, okay, let's go for it.
First 3 years, I was alone.
Yeah, no.
I was literally by myself. Yeah. You know, one of the loneliest things I've ever done in my life was starting my own
questions I was going to ask.
Yeah. And you know, some days when, you know, the big client hasn't paid the bill, and they go, but it's only £10,000, and you go, but, you know, to you.
Yeah, to you it's nothing because you got money at the end of the month. For me,
4 months and the dog hasn't had anything to eat for ages, you know.
Oh, so you have it.
I have a beautiful dog.
Okay.
A chocolate dog.
Oh.
Called Bentley.
Oh, Bentley. I like that.
Yeah.
I have a girlfriend. She calls me the Bentley Millionaire. So
it's just
the
most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah.
You know, there's been a lot of change in my life, but the consistent thing for the last 8 years has been Bentley.
Bentley, he's always been there for you. So that goes to my next question. You are so successful in everything that you do. How do you balance like your private life and work? Is there something as a secret that you have to?
It's my second wife.
Okay.
I was married the first time for 26 years. Sadly, my first wife had bipolar, and for lots of reasons, we decided we would carry on. We had no children then. I actually didn't think we were going to have children. And then I met this amazing lady, who's now my wife, and we now have 2 children. So at the tender age of 57, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, which is amazing. And
Bentley.
Yeah, and Bentley. And she just holds it all together. She's my rock. She is the one that I rely on every day to make sure that the house is fine and the kids are fine. And I'm away 3-4 nights a week.
Yeah, so it's pretty intense.
But
you guys balance it out.
The thing is, if I spend a week at home, she goes, "When are you going to Hamburg, darling?"
When are you leaving home?
Yeah,
we don't need you know
right
right now.
It works fine, but then you know, and so for us at the moment, I mean, we're putting a lot into the job.
Of course.
I'm you know, I have an amazing job at EC. I'm incredibly lucky. Alexander is the best person I've ever worked with. And to say that when you're 57 and you've worked for so many companies, you know, big multinational businesses, but to say that that's the best job ever is really something.
I think it's also the team that you know, people that you're surrounded by, which is very much important. So that brings me to, you talked about hard lessons, but what's the lesson you've learned in your life that has totally changed you? Is there something that you could tell me? One thing or two that has completely changed your life?
Totally changed. Okay, and I think it's a really easy answer. Everybody has talent. You just have to find it. Every single person I've ever worked with, I'm really proud of this. I've done, you know, I had lots of people when I ran my business CoverPoint who worked for me for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever. Almost everyone that left has gone off and done something outstanding.
Oh, really?
And it's really funny because I have a lady she's now living in South America. She got married, she went out there, she started a business out there. she sent me a note on LinkedIn a week ago saying, I used to think, why were you so obsessive about detail? Why were you so OCD about getting things right? Now I'm running my company. I have 48 people working for me. I'm turning over X million. And every day I say to my team exactly what you say. Yeah.
See,
and she had super talent, but she just didn't know it. And that's so true for so many people. I mean, I do a lot of stuff outside of ECE, which is for the benefit of, I don't know, what do we call it, community benefit stuff. A lot of that's about taking people who've had really tough times, the disadvantaged, those that have ended up in prison for whatever reason, or homeless, and getting them back into employment. And food service is a really good way of doing that. Getting them into the kitchen, even if it's a very basic job, but giving them a sense of timing and agenda and routine, and giving them back some sense of feeling that they're doing something worthwhile.
That's a bit like what Mayor said when he with his organization going to Bolivia, bringing.
And nothing that I've done is anything on that scale.
No, but the fact that you say, bringing people to, maybe had hard times and bringing them back to, as you say, so the discipline.
Really interesting. One guy who'd been on the street and he took a job, arranged for it, and he basically washed up the plates. He was the guy that ran the dishwasher. But there were 20 waiting staff, and they absolutely loved him because he did such a good job. And without those clean plates, they
wouldn't. Yeah, so it doesn't work. You need everybody to work together.
And he said, "I've never felt so valued."
Yeah.
And I think
it's small things you don't need to do.
But that's when that happens, when the hair on the back of your neck stands up. And Klaus, watching him yesterday, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And I said to him afterwards, just thank you so much. To go and see things like that is a huge privilege. That's why I do what I do, and to meet people like that is a huge privilege. It's just amazing.
Amazing. Well, last question that I have for you. So maybe a piece of advice that you could maybe give. So my boyfriend is opening a restaurant back in Fulham very soon. So Mediterranean food. And so what advice would you give for someone that's passionate about food and wants to set something in the world? It's not necessarily for my boyfriend, but maybe for somebody else that's living. What would you say? Apart from, I know, believing.
Believe, but don't do it for yourself, as in, and I'm not talking about financially. Think about the food and the flavours, and think about what it will mean for other people. We all fall in love with stuff. I work for loads of landlords who say, I want Noma in my shopping centre. And well, that's you, and you can afford 140 quid a meal, but nobody else can. Exciting flavours. Be true to that, the culinary side of it, but think about it more than just what you love. You've got to have other people who love it as well. So test it with as many people as possible. Get out there and try it. And what I'm finding more and more is that people are quite cautious about the strength of flavour, and yet the customer, the guest, is much less cautious. They want power these days. They want real flavours and sensations. So we're quite, in the UK, we're quite soft with our flavouring. We don't put too much power behind it. Now we're seeing much more, as the cuisines have become more focused, whether it's any one of the Chinese cuisines or any one of the Asian cuisines or Central European or Levant. The flavours that come into those things are more spicy than they used to be. So it's about not just thinking about what I love, but what everybody else will love as well, and give them that graduation. They can choose the heat, they can choose the complexity of it as well.
That sounds like.
And of course, do the finances properly and all of that.
The laying out, but the key
thing is, if nobody likes the food, you're a non-starter. That's the point. You can build the best restaurant ever, but you've got to love the food. And you look in the newspapers every day in London at the moment, and this restaurant's closing after 2 months, and this restaurant's closing after 1 month. And you know that somebody's had an obsession about something, and it's just not viable. So the best advice is get as many people as you can together with him, try, and see what they say. And if they go, oh, that's gorgeous, you're on it. You're absolutely on it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Thank you, pleasure.
Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Love it. Mwah.